Welcome to Math with Mr. J.
In this video, I'm going to go through a review of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. These four operations show up all throughout math, so no matter what level of math or goal you are working towards, hopefully this review helps. We will start with addition and then move to subtraction, multiplication, and then end with division. If you'd like to skip around, check the description for chapters and timestamps. Let's jump into number 1, where we have 4,367 plus 962. The first thing that we need to do is set this problem up. So 4,367 plus 962. When we set up an addition problem, we need to line up the places. So for number 1, in the ones place, we have a 7 and a 2. In the tens place, we have a 6 and a 6. In the hundreds place, we have a 3 and a 9. And then in the thousands place, we have a 4. Only the top number in number 1 goes to the thousands place. Once we're lined up, we add, and we always start with the furthest place to the right. When working with whole numbers, this is going to be the ones place. We have 7 plus 2, which is 9. Now we work our way left. So next is the tens place. We have 6 plus 6. Now technically this is 60 plus 60 because we are in the tens place, but we can think of it as 6 plus 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. So put the 2 in the tens place and then carry the 1 to the hundreds place. Now, like I mentioned, technically we did 60 plus 60 because those 6's are in the tens place. 60 plus 60 is 120. So the 2 from 120 goes in the tens place, and then we carry the 1 from 120 to the hundreds place because that 1 has a value of 100. It's in the hundreds place. Now we move to the left to the hundreds place, where we have 1 plus 3 plus 9. Technically, this is 100 plus 300 plus 900 because we're in the hundreds place, but we can think of this as 1 plus 3 plus 9. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 9 is 13. So put the 3 in the hundreds place, and then carry the 1 over to the thousands place. Now we end by moving left to the thousands place, where we have 1 plus 4, which equals 5. Now technically we did 1,000 plus 4,000 because we are in the thousands place. We can place the comma in our answer, and we end up with 5,329. Let's move on to number 2, where we have 798,041 plus 583,876. Let's set this problem up. So 798,041 plus 583,876. So all of the places are lined up and we are ready to add. Starting with the ones place, we have 1 plus 6, which is 7. Now we work our way left. So we have the tens place next. We have 4 plus 7, which is 11. So put a 1 in the tens place and then carry a 1 over to the hundreds place. Now we can add the hundreds place. So we have 1 plus 0 plus 8. 1 plus 0 is 1, plus 8 is 9. Now we move left to the thousands place. We have 8 plus 3, which is 11. So put a 1 in the thousands place and then carry a 1 over to the 10,000s place. Now we move over to the 10,000s place where we have 1 plus 9 plus 8. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 8 is 18. So put the 8 in the 10,000s place and then carry the 1 over to the 100,000s place. And then lastly, we move over to the 100,000s place where we have 1 plus 7 plus 5. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 5 is 13. So put the 3 in the 100,000s place and then carry the 1 over to the millions place. And we can bring that 1 straight down since there isn't anything else in the millions place. Now we can place the commas in our final answer and we end up with 1,381,917. So there's how we add. Let's move on to subtraction. Here are our examples for subtraction. Let's jump into number 1, where we have 7,724 minus 3,540. The first thing that we need to do is set this problem up. So 7,724 minus 3,540. Now, when we set up a subtraction problem, we need to line up the places. For example, in number 1, we have the ones place, the 4 and the 0. We have the tens place, the 2 and the 4. We have the hundreds place, the 7 and the 5. And then we have the thousands place, the 7 and the 3. Once we have everything lined up, we can subtract, and we always start with the furthest place to the right. When working with whole numbers, that's always going to be the ones place. So we have 4 minus 0, which is 4. Now we work our way left. So next we have the tens place. We have 2 minus 4, which we can't do. We need to borrow. So we need to borrow from the place to the left, which is the hundreds place. So let's borrow from this 7, which is now a 6, and we have a 12. So 12 minus 4 gives us 8. Now we work our way left to the hundreds place, where we have 6 minus 5, which is 1. And then lastly, we have the thousands place. 7 minus 3 is 4. We can place the comma in our answer, and we end up with 4,184. Now, before moving on to number 2, I do want to talk about borrowing and what is happening when we do so. For example, when we borrowed from the 7 in number 1, we borrowed 1 from the 7. Technically, we borrowed 100 because that 7 is in the hundreds place and has a value of 700. Now we are subtracting in the tens place, so we technically have 20 minus 40, which we can't do. So borrowing that 1 with a value of 100 gives us 120. So we have 120 minus 40, which is 80. That 8 in the answer in the tens place has a value of 80. Now, as we went through the problem, we thought of this as 12 minus 4, which equals 8. But this is something to keep in mind anytime you need to borrow. Let's move on to number 2, where we have 417,608 minus 85,329. Let's set this problem up. So 417,608 minus 85,329. Now that we have the problem lined up, we can subtract, and we start with the ones place. We have 8 minus 9, which we can't do, so we need to borrow from the place to the left. But the place to the left, the tens place, we have a 0, so we can't borrow from a 0. So we need to go another place to the left to the hundreds place. Let's borrow from the 6 in the hundreds place. So this is now 5. We have a 10 here, but we need to borrow from the 10 in order to subtract in the ones place. So that's a 9. And then we end up with 18 minus 9. That gives us 9. Now we can work our way left. Next is the tens place. 9 minus 2 is 7. Now the hundreds place. 5 minus 3 is 2. Now the thousands place. 7 minus 5 is 2. And now the 10,000s place. We have 1 minus 8. We can't do that, so we need to borrow from the 100,000s place. That's now a 3. And we have 11 minus 8, which is 3. And then the 100,000s place, we just have a 3, so we can bring that 3 down. Place a comma in our answer, and we end up with 332,279. So there's how we subtract. Let's move on to multiplication. Here are our first examples for multiplication. We will take a look at multiplying by one-digit numbers, 2-digit numbers and 3-digit numbers. So we'll start with 1-digit numbers. Let's jump into number 1, where we have 439 times 7. Now the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to line this up vertically. So we're going to rewrite it up and down. So let's go below the problem here. And we have 439 times 7. Now we can start multiplying, and we start with the ones place. So we have a 9 in the ones place. We need to do 7 times 9 to start with. 7 times 9 is 63. So let's write our 3 and then carry our 6. And then we work our way left. So next would be the tens place. So we have a 3 in the tens place. 7 times 3 is 21. And then we add that carried 6. So 21 plus 6 is 27. Let's put our 7 and carry the 2. And then we have the hundreds place. So a 4 is in the hundreds place. 7 times 4 is 28. Plus 2 is 30. So we can put our 0. Now there are no more places to the left. So let's just bring our 3 down into the thousands place. Put our comma, and our final answer is 3,073. Let's move on to number 2 and do another example. For number 2, we have 2,864 times 5. So let's rewrite this vertically. 2,864 times 5. Start with the ones, and then we will work our way left. So we have a 4 in the ones place. 5 times 4 is 20. Let's put our 0, carry the 2. Then we have the tens place where we have a 6. 5 times 6 is 30, plus the carried 2 is 32. Carry our 3. Then we have the hundreds where we have an 8. So 5 times 8 is 40, plus 3 is 43. Carry our 4. And then lastly, we have the thousands where we have a 2. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus that carried 4 is 14. So we'll put our 4, and then we do not have any more places to the left, so we just bring our 1 straight down. We have a comma here, and our final answer is 14,320. So that's how we multiply by 1 digit. Let's move on to multiplying by 2 digits. Here are our double-digit multiplication examples. Let's start with number 1, where we have 48 times 23. Now the first thing that we need to do, we need to line this up vertically. So we're going to rewrite it up and down. Let's go below the problem here. And we have 48 times 23. So once we have that rewritten vertically, we need to multiply the top number by the ones digit of the bottom number. So the ones digit of the bottom number is the 3 in 23. So we need to do 3 times 8 and then 3 times 4. We can forget about the 2 and 23 right now. We're just worried about the ones place. So let's start with 3 times 8, which is 24. So we'll write our 4 and then carry the 2. Then we take that 3 and multiply it by the 4 in 48. So we're moving to the left to the tens place of that top number. So 3 times 4 is 12, plus the carried 2 is 14. So we can write our 4, and then the carried 1, well, there aren't any more places to the left, so we can just bring it straight down, and we end up with 144. So we are done with that 3 in the ones place. I'm going to cross it off. And we are done with that carried 2. I'm going to cross that off as well. That way we know we're done with that 3 and the carried 2, and we can move forward. So our next step, we're going to multiply the top number by the tens digit of the bottom number. So the 2 from 23. Now we do need a 0 since we are moving over to the tens place, and that 2 has a value of 20. So we need to make sure we write a 0 here. Again, because we're moving over to the tens place and that 2 has a value of 20. Once we have that 0, we can do 2 times 8 and then 2 times 4. 2 times 8 is 16, so we write our 6 and then carry our 1. Now we can do 2 times 4 plus that carried 1. 2 times 4 is 8, plus the carried 1 is 9. So we end up with 144 and 960 there. Once we get to this point, we add. So let's add these two numbers together, and those are called partial products. They're part of our final product. Now we're ready to add, and we're going to start with the ones place. So we have 4 plus 0, that's 4. Then we move to the tens place. We have 4 plus 6, which is 10. So we can write our 0, and then carry our 1. And then for the hundreds place, we have 1 plus 1 plus 9. So 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 9 is 11. So we can put our 1 here, and then we carry a 1 over to the thousands place, and it's all by itself, so we can bring it straight down, and we end up with 1,104, and that's our final answer. Now, one more thing I do want to mention before moving on, and this is going to help us understand what we're doing within this problem. So we started by multiplying the top number by the ones digit of the bottom number. So we did 3 times 48 there. 3 times 48. And that equals 144, which we have right here. Then we move over to the tens digit and multiply that by 48. And that tens digit is a 2, but it has a value of 20 because it's in the tens place. So we did 20 times 48 as well. And that equals 960, which is right here. And then we add those together to get the final product. Let's move on to number 2, where we have 849 times 75. Remember, the first thing that we need to do, we need to line this up vertically, so up and down. We have 849 times 75. Let's start with the ones place of that bottom number and multiply it by the top number. So we'll start with 5 times 9, which is 45. Let's put our 5, carry the 4. Then we have 5 times 4. We're moving over to the tens place now in that top number. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 is 24. Carry the 2. And then we end with the hundreds place of the top number. So let's take our ones place from the bottom number, that 5, times the hundreds place of the top number. 5 times 8 is 40, plus that 2 is 42. So we'll put our 2, and then no more places to the left, so we can just bring that 4 straight down. So we are done with the ones place now. We did 5 times 849, and we got 4,245. I can put a comma in here. We're done with this 5, and then this carried 4, and this carried 2. So now we're going to move over to the tens place of that bottom number and multiply that by the top number. So we have a 7 in the tens place. Now again, we're in the tens place here, so that has a value of 70. So we need our 0. Now we can multiply. We'll start with 7 times 9, which is 63. Carry that 6. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 6 is 34. Put our 4, carry the 3. And now we have 7 times 8, which is 56, plus that 3 is 59. So we put our 9, and then our carried 5. We don't have any more places to the left, so we can bring that straight down. Put our comma, and now we're ready to add. So to recap, 5 times 849 is 4,245, and then 70 times 849 is 59,430. At this point, we are ready to add our partial products to get our final product, which is the answer to a multiplication problem. Let's start with the ones place and work our way left. So 5 plus 0 is 5. 4 plus 3 is 7. 2 plus 4 is 6. 4 plus 9 is 13. So a 3 there, and then carry the 1. And then 1 plus 5 is 6. Put our comma in, and our final answer is 63,675. There's how to multiply by a 2-digit number. Lastly, let's move on to multiplying by a 3-digit number. Here are our triple-digit multiplication examples. Let's start with number 1, where we have 325 times 281. Now, the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to line this up vertically. So we're going to rewrite it up and down. 325 times 281. Now we're ready to go through our multiplication process. So we start by multiplying the top number by the ones digit of the bottom number. So the ones digit of the bottom number is the 1 in 281. So we need to take that 1 to the 5, the 2, and the 3. We can forget about the 2 and the 8 in 281 right now. We're only concerned about the ones digit. We'll get to those other digits later. So we'll start with 1 times 5, which is 5. Then we have 1 times 2, which is 2. And then 1 times 3, which is 3. So now we're done with the ones digit of our bottom number. So I'm going to cross it off. I'm going to cross things off as we finish up with them. That way we avoid confusion moving forward through our process. Now we move to the tens digit, where we have an 8. Now the value of that 8 is 80. We're moving over one place to the left to the tens digit. So we need a 0 right here as we start with our tens digit. Now we can multiply. So 8 times 5 is 40. So we have another 0 here and carry the 4. Then we do 8 times 2, which is 16, plus 4 is 20. So another 0, and carry the 2. And then we have 8 times 3, which is 24, plus the carried 2 is 26. So we'll write our 6, and there aren't any more places to the left to multiply by, so we can bring that 2 straight down here, and we have 26,000. I'll put our comma in, and we're done with this 8, and we're done with the 4 and 2 that we carried. So I'm crossing all that off. That way we know we are done with it. Now we move to the hundreds digit. We have a 2 there. That 2 has a value of 200. So we need 2 zeros once we move over to the hundreds place. Now we multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. So we'll put our 0, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. And then we have 2 times 3, which is 6. 65,000. So we can put our comma in. And once we get to this point, we add these numbers to get our final product or answer. We'll start with the ones place. 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 0 is 2. 3 plus 0 is 3. 6 plus 5 is 11. So we'll put our 1 and then carry the other one. And then 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 6 is 9. We will put in our comma, and this is our final answer. 91,325. Now, I do want to mention one more thing before moving on to number 2, and this is going to help our overall understanding of this process. Let's take a look at these 3 numbers right here. The 3 numbers we added together to get our final answer. Those are called partial products. They are part of the final product. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So again, the 3 numbers we added together are called partial products. They're part of that final product. Now 325, well, that came from the ones place where we had a 1. So we did 1 times the top number, which is 325. 1 times 325 equals 325. So that was our first partial product. Then we moved to the tens digit where we had an 8. The value of that 8 is 80. So we had 80 times our top number of 325. And that gave us an answer of 26,000. So that was our second partial product. And then lastly, we had a 2 in the hundreds place. That 2 has a value of 200. So we did 200 times 325. And that gave us 65,000. So that was our last partial product. And at that point, we add the partial products to get our final answer, which was 91,325. So something to keep in mind as you're going through the process. Let's move on to number 2, where we have 6,724 times 549. So let's line this up vertically and then go through our process. So we'll start with the ones, where we have a 9. So 9 times 4, 36, carry the 3. Then we have 9 times 2, which is 18, plus that 3 is 21. Then we have 9 times 7, which is 63, plus that 2 is 65. And then we have 9 times 6, which is 54, plus that carried 6, that gives us 60, so we can put our 0. There are no more places to the left to multiply by, so we can bring that 6 straight down. So we have 60,516. We can put our comma in, and then we are done with the ones, and then these carried numbers. Now we'll move to the tens place and multiply by that tens digit, which is a 4. So that 4 has a value of 40. We are moving over to the tens, so we need a 0 there. Then we do 4 times 4, which is 16. Carry the 1. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Then we have 4 times 7, which is 28. So we'll put our 8 and carry the 2. And then we have 4 times 6, which is 24, plus 2 is 26. No more places to the left, so we can bring that 2 straight down, put our comma in, and we have 268,960. We're done with the 4, this carried 1, and then this carried 2. Lastly, we're moving over to the hundreds place where we have a 5. Now that 5 has a value of 500, so we need our 2 zeros there, again, because we're moving over to the hundreds place. And now we can multiply. Start with 5 times 4, which is 20. So we have another 0. Carry the 2. Then we have 5 times 2, which is 10, plus the carried 2. That gives us 12. Then we have 5 times 7, which is 35, plus the carried 1 is 36. Carry the 3, and then we have 5 times 6, which is 30, plus that carried 3 is 33. We will put a 3 here, and then the carried 3, there are no more places to the left, so we can bring it straight down. We can put a comma here, and then another comma here. And now we are ready to add. Start with the ones place, so 6 plus 0 gives us 6. 1 plus 6 is 7. 5 plus 9 is 14. Carry the 1. 1 plus 0 is 1. Plus 8 is 9. Plus 2 is 11. Carry the 1. 1 plus 6 is 7. Plus 6 is 13. Plus 6 is 19. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Plus 3 is 6. And then we have a 3 in the millions place. We can put a comma here and a comma here, and this is our final answer. 3,691,476. So there's how we multiply. Let's move on to division. Here are our first examples for division. We will take a look at dividing by one-digit numbers and then take a look at dividing by two-digit numbers. We'll start with dividing by one-digit numbers. Let's jump into number 1, where we have 820 divided by 5. Now, the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to rewrite this problem. 820 is the number being divided, so it's going to go under the division bar. The number being divided is called the dividend. So 820 is our dividend for number 1, and we can put it under our division bar. Now we're dividing by 5. The number we divide by is called the divisor. So we have 5 on the outside. And now we're ready to go through our steps. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. So we start with divide. We're going to do 8 divided by 5. So how many whole groups of 5 are in 8? 1. So that goes above our 8. Then we multiply. So we multiply 1 times 5, which is 5. And now we subtract. So we do 8 minus 5, which is 3. And now we're ready to bring down our next digit, which is going to be the 2. So let's bring this down. And now we repeat. So we start over with divide. We have 32 divided by 5. So how many whole groups of 5 are in 32? Well, 6. That gets us to 30. So we put our 6 up here, and we come around and multiply. So 6 times 5 is 30. We subtract. 32 minus 30 is 2. And then we bring down our next digit, which is that 0. So we have 20. Now we repeat. So we go back to divide. So 20 divided by 5. How many whole groups of 5 in 20? Well, 4. That hits 20 exactly. So we put 4 up here, come around and multiply again. So we have 4 times 5, which is 20. Subtract, and we have 0. So our answer is 164. We know we're done because we went all the way over to the ones place, and we do not have anything else to bring down. We do not have a remainder, so this worked out perfectly, so to speak. 820 divided by 5 equals 164. Let's move on to number 2, where we have 6,542 divided by 8. So let's set this up. 6,542 divided by 8. So we'll start with divide. We have 6 divided by 8. How many whole groups of 8 can we pull out of 6? Well, we can't do that. We don't have any whole groups of 8 out of 6. So we need to take a look at the next digit over and combine that 6 and 5 to make a 2-digit number. So we're looking at 65. How many whole groups of 8 are in 65? Well, 8. That gets us to 64. So 65 divided by 8 is going to be 8. And that 8 needs to go above the 65, not the 6. Now we multiply. And I'm going to do this without drawing the arrows for number 2 here. So we have 8 times 8 is 64. Subtract. 65 minus 64 is 1. Then we bring down the 4. And we have 14. So we repeat. We have 14 divided by 8. How many whole groups of 8 are in 14? Well, 1. Then we multiply. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract. 14 minus 8 is 6. And bring down our 2. So now we have 62 divided by 8. We repeat. So how many whole groups of 8 can we pull out of 62? How many whole groups of 8 are in 62? Well, 8 times 7 is going to be 56. And then 8 times 8 is 64. We don't quite have enough for 8. It's going to be 7, which gets us to 56. So let's write our 7. Multiply 7 times 8, 56. Subtract, we get 6. Now we went all the way over to the ones place, so we do not have any more digits to bring down. We are done. This one did not work out perfectly like number 1. We have a remainder, something left over. So that 6 is our remainder. The final answer, 817, remainder 6. So that's how we divide by a 1-digit divisor. Let's move on to dividing by 2-digit divisors. So here are our examples of dividing by a 2-digit divisor. Let's jump into number 1, where we have 962 divided by 20. And the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to set this up. Now, 962 is the number we are dividing. It's called the dividend. So it goes under the division bar. So we have 962 divided by, and then 20 is our divisor. It's the number we're dividing by. Now we're ready to go through the division process, the steps: divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, repeat. And we start with divide. So we have 9 divided by 20. How many whole groups of 20 are in 9? Well, we can't do that. So we need to go to the next digit over and use that 6. So we have the 9 and the 6. So we have 96. 96 divided by 20. How many whole groups of 20 are in 96? Well, 4 groups of 20 gets us to 80, and then 5 groups of 20 gets us to 100. So 5 is too many, it's going to be 4. So we need to put a 4 above the 96. Don't put it above the 9, put it above the 6, because we did 96 divided by 20. Then we come around and multiply. So 4 times 20, that gives us 80. Then we subtract. 6 minus 0, 6, and then 9 minus 8, 1. After we subtract, we bring down. So let's bring down this 2. And then we repeat. So we go back to divide. So now we have 162 divided by 20. How many whole groups of 20 are in 162? Well, 8 groups of 20 gets us to 160, and that's as close as we are going to get. So 162 divided by 20, 8 whole groups of 20 in 162. Then we come around and multiply. So 8 times 20 is 160. Subtract. 2 minus 0 is 2. 6 minus 6 is 0. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So we have 2. Now after subtracting, we bring down. But we don't have anything to bring down. We went all the way over to the ones place. So that 2 is going to be our remainder. So 48 remainder 2 is our answer. Let's move on to number 2, where we have 6,865 divided by 73. So we are dividing 6,865, that's our dividend. It goes under our division bar. And we are dividing by 73. 73 is our divisor. Now we go through our steps. So we start with divide. We have 6 divided by 73. How many whole groups of 73 are in 6? We can't do that. So we go to the next digit. We have an 8. So we take a look at 68. How many whole groups of 73 are in 68? We can't do that either. So we need to go to the next digit over, which is another 6. So we have 686 divided by 73. So we need to figure out how many whole groups of 73 are in 686. Now, in order to figure out how many whole groups of 73 are in 686, we need to estimate and check. Now, I always like to use something I know as a reference point, something to go off of in order to make better estimates. So for example, I always like to start with 10. I like to think about 10. So 73 times 10 is 730. Now we can go off of that because we have 686, which is kind of close to 730. So our estimate should be close to 10 groups of 73. So let's try 9. So I'm going to come to the side and do 73 times 9 to see where 9 groups of 73 gets us. So 9 times 3, 27. Then we have 9 times 7, which is 63, plus 2, 657. And that's as close as we are going to get. So 9 whole groups of 73. And that 9 needs to go above the 686, that last 6 we used. Now we multiply. I'm going to do this problem without drawing those arrows. So 9 times 73 is 657. Then we subtract. So 6 minus 7, we need to borrow. 16 minus 7 is 9. 7 minus 5 is 2. And then 6 minus 6 is 0. After subtracting, we bring down. So let's bring down the 5. And we have 295. After we bring down that 5, we repeat. So we go back to divide. So we have 295 divided by 73. We need to figure out how many whole groups of 73 are in 295. So let's use 9 groups of 73 as a reference point. 9 groups of 73, or 73 times 9, gave us 657. 295 is about half of that, so we need to scale that back. Let's try 73 times 5 and see how close we get, and then we can make adjustments if need be. Let's come to the left here where I have some room. So 73 times 5. 5 times 3 is 15. 5 times 7 is 35, plus 1 is 36. So we get 365, which is too high. We don't have enough for 5 whole groups of 73. But that's still useful because we know we need to scale back. So let's try 4. So 73 times 4. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry the 1. 4 times 7 is 28. Plus 1 is 29. So 292. It's going to be 4 whole groups of 73 in 295. So let's put our 4 up here. And then we multiply. 4 times 73 is 292. Subtract. 5 minus 2 is 3. And then we have 9 minus 9 is 0, and 2 minus 2 is 0. After subtracting, we bring down. We went all the way over to the ones place. We do not have anything else to bring down, so that 3 is our remainder. So we get 94, remainder 3, for our final answer. Now, one more thing I do want to mention is the difference between numbers 1 and 2. Although we divided by a 2-digit number in both of these problems, number 2 took more work and more time. But that's perfectly okay. In number 1, we divided by 20. That's a much easier number to work with than the 73 in number 2. So that's something to keep in mind as you go through these types of problems. Some numbers are easier to work with than others, and some problems take more work than others. So there you have it. There's a review of how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. I hope that helped. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, peace.